Welcome back to Tears for Fears. I'm your host, Megan Shoup. You can follow me on Twitter at Megs08DFS. And of course, we are talking Week 7 Tiers contest on DraftKings. Before we get started, though, please be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. We would really appreciate that. Also, be sure to check out our sponsors at Run the Sims. We use Run the Sims to help us make our tiers decisions. They have great tools like a rangefinder tool and percentile projections tool that can help you make those 1v1 important decisions for tiers. Also, check out fanspeak.com where I have my weekly tiers article and a tier simulator that plugs in my favorite core plays. Just helps you get some tiers lineup suggestions. As always, we are going to go tier by tier, and I'm going to just focus on kind of what my core plays are, and then I'll give you my favorite play. So let's jump right over to DraftKings and take a look at Week 7 tiers. Oh, I'd had my favorite lineup plugged in. Let's start from scratch here. Okay, so tier 1, we have the quarterbacks, and we have Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. And, this one's tough because, there's I've kind of buried the lead that there's a lot of really insanely talented teams or teams loaded with fantasy talent that are on bye this week that are not on the main slate. So, we don't have, Eagles, Bills, Vikings, teams like that. So it kind of waters down some tiers. And so while these 4 quarterbacks, are good, usually I just plug in Josh Allen. The same with tier 2. I think Rams aren't by. Usually I just go or they're playing night game. I just, tier 2, I plug in Cooper Kupp. And usually more often than not, that works. This one's a little tougher this week because you could kind of make a case for all 4 of these quarterbacks. In this one, I thought Burrow looked amazing last week. The Burrow Chase connection really came alive back in New Orleans. And so my core plays here are Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. I mean, they lost a heartbreaker to the Giants that they shouldn't have lost last week. I think they need a statement win at home. It's hard to fade Mahomes and Herbert, that offense looked broken on Monday night. So that one's tough for me, but going up against the Seattle defense is certainly a recipe for, getting back on track. But I think I'm just going to sprinkle in a little Herbert and Mahomes, and my core plays are Jackson and Burrow. But Joe Burrow against that Atlanta defense is my favorite play for tier 1. Tier 2, we have Austin Eckler, Devontae Adams, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Jamar Chase. And obviously, if you've been paying attention to news, you know that they have now changed it. Christian McCaffrey is now a 49er. So we don't know if he's actually going to play yet this weekend. So obviously he's a fade for me because even if he does, I think it would be in a very limited capacity. But it's wild news over there. McCaffrey heading to the 49ers. So McCaffrey's a fade. My core plays, and I'll probably just sprinkle in a little bit of Derrick Henry. Not because I don't love Derrick Henry, but I just love the ceilings better for Chase, Adams, and Eckler. That is my core. Eckler has been explosive. Again, that Seattle defense is a great one to target. And, he has been the one putting up those ceiling monster performances for the Chargers. So those are my 3 core plays, but I am going to pair, I talk about not forcing it, but I am going to pair Chase with Burrow again. That was a recipe for success last week. And against this Atlanta defense, I think that could be a recipe for success this week. So Jamar Chase is my favorite play in tier 2. Over to tier 3, we have Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Mark Andrews, and Michael Pittman Jr. Mark Andrews did go back to practice on Friday. So, but be sure to pay attention to news through the weekend. Anytime a guy has a Q tag, you want to just stay on top of all that news. So I'm actually going to fade Pittman here. It's just, he's in such a high tier. If he was in a lower tier, I'd probably have some interest. And, I'm probably going to rotate through the core play. I'll probably just sprinkle in a little Chubb, and my core plays are Barkley, Andrews, and Kelce. So 2 tight ends and the stud running back who's carrying the whole load for his team. That kind of makes a lot of sense for me. And between the 2, I was kind of going back and forth on Kelce. I just lean Andrews. Again, I talked about it with Lamar Jackson. I really think, Baltimore needs a big win at home, divisional win at home this week. And, Andrews is just their go-to guy. So Mark Andrews is my tier 3 play. For tier 4, we have Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Leonard Fournette, Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, and Aaron Jones. This one is really tough, to be quite honest. Aaron Jones just hasn't really had much of a ceiling game outside that Chicago game. So I'm fading Aaron Jones.
I'm kind of sprinkling in Deebo Samuel. And my core plays are really going to be CeeDee Lamb, Fournette, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Josh Jacobs. I was going back and forth on Jacobs and Lamb are probably my two favorites in this tier, but CeeDee Lamb has Dak back. Detroit has been a recipe again for success. If you target Detroit, you're usually getting fantasy points from the offense who's going against Detroit. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb as my tier 4 play. Tier 5, back to quarterbacks. We have Derek Carr, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Dak Prescott. And it is weird to say, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season, I would have a strong fade of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson in a tier with these quarterbacks, I'd say you're crazy, but that's where we're at, just week 7. So even though Washington is a defensive target, that game's going to most likely play slow. Aaron Rodgers has yet to put up a ceiling performance, and Wilson just looks, obviously that offense looks broken. So they are my fades, and I will probably just sprinkle a little Matt Ryan. I do think he has an opportunity against that Tennessee secondary, but he's not been one to target either outside of last week. So sprinkle a little him. My core plays are Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, and Derek Carr. I think obviously for Tampa Bay, it could be a blowout, but if it's a blowout, all of Brady and his weapons are in play. And, Derek Carr, obviously, I love that matchup for him against Houston. But I'm going to go right back to Dak Prescott, his first week back. I just talked about it with Lamb, and you want to target the Lions for a recipe for success and getting fantasy points, offense going against Lions defense. I said it for Lamb. I'm going to correlate this one too and pair him with Dak Prescott coming back in his first week at home. I really like that. So Dak Prescott is my tier 5 play. Tier 6, we have Mike Evans, Dameon Pierce, Mike Williams, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, and T. Higgins. This one was tough for me, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of tiers that, you can, again, make a case for a lot of these guys. But I don't know. Mike Williams and that Chargers, he either gets you 20 yards or like 120 yards and really nothing in between. So he's got a scary floor for tiers. He's got a great ceiling, but he's got a scary floor. And with Keenan Allen most likely coming back, I don't know if I can go there. I think I'm going to fade Mike Williams, sprinkle in maybe a little Evans and Pierce. And my core plays are Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, and T. Higgins. I'm obviously very high on Cincinnati this week. You could double stack this in this case with Burrow if you wanted to. I see the case for it here, but you don't have to. Again, so I'm going to go DK Metcalf against the Chargers. I do think the Chargers could put up points still, even though I am worried about Herbert and Williams and their ceilings. I still think this could be a high total game. And I like a bounce back spot for Geno in the Seattle offense. So DK Metcalf is my tier 6 play. Tier 7, we have Breece Hall, Amari Cooper, Alan Lazard, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cortland Sutton, Chris Godwin, Ezekiel Elliott, and Kenneth Walker III. My fades here are going to be CEH, Sutton, probably very little Godwin. Again, more of a product. I just like the kind of the game scripts and the ceilings for the other guys better. Sprinkle in Cooper. My core plays are Breece Hall, Alan Lazard, Ezekiel Elliott, Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker III looked awesome. I just think he now carries the load for Seattle. Elliott, some people, rag on Elliott and wish Pollard got more touches, but he's still getting a ton of touches. And again, I'll say it one more time. You want Detroit defense is the one to target, especially for running backs. We saw Ramondre Stevenson 2 weeks ago really get there when Damian Harris went out. So that has been, something to target. So I have a ton of interest in Elliott too. Alan Lazard, while I didn't play, Rodgers, I still think Lazard could potentially have a ceiling game, even if Rodgers doesn't. And Breece Hall, boy, this rookie, I think is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. He looks awesome. I think they can feed him both, receiving and rushing. And so Breece Hall is my favorite play for tier 7. Over to tier 8, we have Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin, Jeff Wilson Jr., Brandon Cooks, Romeo Doubs, and Michael Gallup. It's hard to rule out ones in this tier. I'm actually fading the 49ers guys, which feels weird, but it's just like playing whack-a-mole with like which 49er could be the one that goes off. So I'm not going to kind of try to play the guessing game with them. Going to sprinkle in a little Dubs and Gallup. My core plays are actually Brandon Cooks, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, and Tyler Lockett. I can make a case for all of these guys. Again, check practice reports and anybody with a Q tag. Terry McLaurin, I do think you'll get at incredibly low ownership just because he hasn't had the ceiling game yet. He's getting back Taylor Heineke. They worked together last year. They had some he had some ceiling performances with Heineke. So I think that could be a very underlooked kind of narrative this week. So I think I'm going to play him some, and he could be kind of my sneaky find in tier 8 if he could finally get fed by Heineke here. But my favorite play is Brandon Cooks. I think the game script is right for Houston in that game, that they're going to be playing from behind. And, I don't think people are going to be as on him either. And so Brandon Cooks is my tier 8 play. So what do you think? How did I do? Let me know in the comments section what you think of my lineup. Also, let me know who your sneaky plays. I mentioned a couple for tier 8. Do you have any sneaky plays for the last few tiers? If so, let me know in the comments section. Again, before you get out of here, please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network, check out Run the Sims, and check out my tiers article and simulator over on fanspeak.com to help you make your tiers decisions. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Now let's go make some money.